Episode 32 of The Hot Stove. I'm Ian Bosniak, joined alongside by Robert Venegas, as always. How we doing?
What's up, Ian? Yup, another day, another dollar, as we say, just in a different location, wherever we can make do with recording and all that, and we're gonna make it happen. So, just living life and ready for the new year.
Listen, your backdrop looks better than mine. I got blurred. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate it.
So,
Appreciate it.
yeah, of course, dog. Of course, dog. Well, listen, we can't say that we have the same exact energy as we did last week. The Mets did not go ahead and sign another $765 million player. So, we're going to go ahead and talk about what the Mets can do to ensure that Soto and Lindor have the support within the lineup that they need. But before that, two quick notes. Really, I mean, I wouldn't really even call them noteworthy if I'm being honest, but the Mets signed Jared Young, a utility man. It's listed on MLB.com as a first baseman. Played in the KBO last year, one of two KBO players that the Mets brought in. Again, he's a utility player, last appeared in the major leagues. The Cubs in 2023, hit two home runs, eight RBIs, hit 186, 255 on base percentage, 720 OPS. Slugged much better than the other statistics. So there's that. And then in addition to that, the Mets also brought in left-handed pitcher Brandon Waddell. Last time he appeared in the major leagues was in 2021 with several different teams, but he's made a name for himself in the KBO. Career 23 and 10 with a 298 ERA and 43 starts. And the lefty will be entering his age 31 season. More David Stern's little nitpicks.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. More like low risk, high reward type signings. But you said it best. Just depth pieces. David Sturt signings. To the T. So again, hopefully, what's his name? Jared Young.
Very young.
Yeah, let's hope he's not the first baseman going into 2025 for the Mets, but better safe than sorry as we say.
Yeah, if that were ever the case, there would be a massive, massive problem. And something,
Yeah,
something,
definitely.
something failed
Definitely.
tremendously this offseason. Yeah.
100%.
Again, Stearns likes to scope out the entirety of the free agent market. And again, the Mets have multiple spots on their 40 man to fill. Waddell was a minor league contract, so he'll be invited to spring training. Jared Young, invite, but also a major league contract. So he's on their 40 man. With that being said, how are we going to supplement the 40 man? Right? We're looking at lineups. We just posted a little graphic on Instagram regarding potential lineup constructions. Something that we brought up last week very briefly, and obviously we're going to get to Pete Alonso and the latest with his sweepstakes, but Mr. Alex Bregman is being spoken about as a possibility for the New York Mets. Two-time world champion with the Astros. I don't really need to go through his accolades and his resume. We all know Mr. Bregman. Rob, what are your thoughts on bringing in Alex Bregman, who will be entering his age 31 season and someone that's most likely looking for a 7 or 8 year deal?
No, yeah, I mean, obviously, the guy, he's looking for a 7, 8 year deal. It's not very attractive when you look at the year to year mark and the age, 31 season. But again, a gamer, straight gamer, a champion, a winner, a guy that can play third base and maybe shift over to the other side of the diamond at first. But again, just a pure hitter. Granted, again, his numbers kind of went down after the whole scandal with the Astros. But again, Alex Bregman's proven in my eyes. I think it's an upgrade at third base, if you ask me, in terms of defensively, even though Vientos has proven and has gotten better at the position. But I just think it makes the Mets a little more expendable, and a little more versatile. You can mix and match. You can put Vientos at first and Bregman at third, or vice versa, and then you could swap them out in the DH spot. So I think adding a guy like Bregman would not only again prove that the Mets are all in and want to win a championship, but it's really going to lengthen your lineup. I could see him plugged in at a 5, 6, 7 hole in that Mets lineup, especially if again an old friend decides to re-sign. But again, let's say that doesn't happen, then I could rock with a Vientos and Bregman at third base.
No doubt. And a contract that I post for Bregman, again, I hate 7 or 8 years. I'll say it right from the get go.
Hmm. Fair.
some of some of his underlying numbers over the last few years have been, I'm not going to say really concerning, right? When you look at the average player. But again, it really does seem like, and I'll say, I don't really necessarily think it was the whole cheating scandal. I think it was like the juice ball era when players were just
Yeah,
hitting the
yeah,
ball out of the ballpark left and right. He hit 31 home runs in 2018, 41 in 2019, and since then hasn't eclipsed 26, which he hit this past season. He also drove in 103, 112 runs back in 2018, 2019. His highest mark since then was 98 runs batted in last year with the Stros. I think my biggest thing here, and again, Bregman's an interesting case because, as I said, you look at some of the numbers, they've been in decline a little bit. Weighted runs created plus 2 years ago, 2022 is 137. Last year, 126. This past year, 118. You look at WAR in those 3 years, that span 5.4, 4.5, and 4.1. Again, that's a far cry from the juice ball era, 2018, 2019, where he posted a 7.9 WAR and an 8.3 WAR. But I think my biggest thing with Alex Bregman, aside from the years, is that I believe he still has all the talent in the world, but I don't like the fact that his on base percentage dipped to the point where, let me just say this, his lowest on base percentage in a regular season, a regular full season, so that's excluding rookie year, excluding 2020, his lowest on base percentage was 352 in 2017. Since then, 394, 423, 355, 366. This past year, 315. And I think that's a big question mark to me. It's not like his strikeout rate rose tremendously, 13.6% strikeout rate, but I just, I don't know. His hard hit percentage is down. I just, I don't know. And also, the Astros had a little bit of a weird year. They didn't really turn it on until, towards the back end of the season.
yeah.
The one thing that I can say, and this is something that I've been mulling over, and we'll touch upon Alonso. But if you're looking at, let's say, the Mets acquiring one more big wig bat, whether it's Bregman or Alonso, the one thing that I'll say about Bregman is that he does not strike out a lot. Last year, I think he struck out 83 or 88 times, something along those lines.
Hmm.
You
Definitely.
put him, you put him in the middle of the order. You got Lindor, Soto, Vientos, and Nimmo, who are all going to strike out over 120 times. You insert Alonso in there, he's going to strike out over 150 times. But if you put a Bregman in, it could switch something up. How many times do we see runner at second with nobody outs? Alonso up, he strikes out, all of a sudden you got one out, right? Bregman could knock the ball over to the right side of the infield, move the runner over.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big exclamation point in my head that, you brought up is that the strikeout rate, Bregman, like I said, just a pure hitter, a gamer. I know again the numbers have been declining. But at the end of the day, he's going to put up a fight, whether it's, down in the count or up in the count. Again, a great middle of the order bat for the Mets, especially a right-handed bat that the Mets have kind of been looking for a long time. Obviously, Vientos kind of hopped into the equation when he had the year he had in 24. And it's a good problem to have. But again, I think you look at a team like the Dodgers and even a team like the Phillies, like 1 through 9, they're stacked. And I think if you add a guy like Bregman to the Mets order, and again, I'm not going to count out even signing Alonso, if we get Bregman. So again, it's just obviously the money plays a factor and the years and the AAV, but you look at the National League East, man, 1 through 9, and those top three teams, that it's a lethal lineup. So I think a guy like Bregman is just going to make the Mets even more lethal than the Braves and the Phillies.
Realistically speaking, I think going into 2025, you bring up the NL East. I think the only lineup that's going to be really weak are the Marlins.
Yeah,
You look at the Nationals,
the Nationals have gotten better,
you
and they're
know,
looking at Christian Walker.
they're looking at
Um,
Christian Walker. I would not be surprised if you see them in the running for Pete Alonso.
I was gonna say make a push. Yeah.
They want power. I could see them going after an Anthony Santander. They're
Hmm.
looking for power. And that lineup even last year wasn't a slouch, right? Until
Nah.
CJ Abrams got suspended and then whatever. But until he
But
was
they're
up at
young and they're hungry and they got something to look forward to, you know?
no doubt, no doubt. And that's why I think that, yeah, you're right. There is a massive point of emphasis. Juan Soto, an incredible addition to the Mets lineup. But right now, you are looking at 1 through 4, they're deep, 1 through 5, they're deep. You can't
Yeah.
have that. You can't have that.
Yeah, especially, again, if you slate Brett Beatty in that lineup,
Hell no.
it's not I'm not comfortable with that. Just from off of experience from last year, Yeah, he started off hot in April, but he got demoted by mid-May. So, again, and then again, we don't know. Like, I love Tyrone Taylor, but he's a platoon guy. Jose Siri's a perfect match with Tyrone Taylor in center field, you know? And again, who knows if Marte stays healthy? When he's healthy, he could hit. I mean, we've seen it. He makes our lineup even better, but Marte's not that 2 or even 5 hitter that he was in 2022 anymore. He's only getting older.
And he's currently slated to hit fifth per
Correct.
Fangraphs.
Correct.
And
And
I just
yeah,
and I just think that, you mentioned a couple positions. What happens if Alvarez turns in another season like he did last year? He was great towards the end of the year, but what happens? Right? And obviously these are all hypotheticals, but you look over at second base. Let's say Jeff McNeil doesn't return to form. You're banking on Luis Angel Acuna or Ronnie Mauricio to really come out of the woodworks and play their ass off over at second base.
100%.
So
Yeah,
you
and
have,
Mauricio's coming off a big time injury.
yeah, and he just got cleared for baseball activities.
Hmm.
Therefore, you have two positions there in second base and center field. Center field's going to be a platoon job no matter what, defense first, and then potentially a liability at second base. So
Yeah,
no matter what, I mean, it's no shit, but like Bregman, Alonso, whoever it is, it's imperative we bring in another bat to fortify this lineup.
100%. Yeah, and to go back to second base, like as much as I love Jeff McNeil, regardless of what they do with him or what they end up doing with him, whether it's trading him or keeping him throughout the year and moving him to the outfield, whatever it is, I can't afford to see another first half Jeff McNeil that hits 220, hits one home run, doesn't put the ball in play, flies out, weak flyouts. Can't happen. Can't happen. I got to see the Jeff McNeil of old, that the one that's a consistent hitter that puts the ball in play. And honestly, he wasn't bad at second base last year. He was really good actually, but again, at the dish, he was like a nutcase. And then second half rolls around, he's the Jeff McNeil of old, and then he breaks his hand or wrist, whatever it was, and
And that's twice in 3 years that
yeah,
he's
yeah.
pulled this
Mhm.
little I suck in the first half, let me go off in the second half.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And it's
And
like,
yeah,
again, like 2023, it was nice and all, but we were out of it,
yeah,
like, and then last year he was starting to heat up and then he got hurt and ended his season.
right. And again, we're not Met fans that are freaking out right now saying, "Oh my gosh, we've only got Soto and I
And
can't
Clay
believe we're
Holmes
saying only Juan Soto, right?" But
and Clay
like Clay
Holmes
Holmes, Frankie
and
Montas, right?
Frankie Montas. Like, nah.
But like again, the lineup does have to be fortified, and it will be fortified. It's just a matter of when and who. Because someone like P. Alonso, I could see dragging it out until the end of January, if I'm being completely honest with you, right? Alex
Oh,
Bregman,
definitely.
Alex Bregman, I think is going to sign beforehand. So there's just question marks. Another third baseman though that I wanted to ask you because he came out with a little list this week saying which teams that
Oh,
he would want to be traded to.
yeah.
The future Hall of Famer Nolan Arenado.
Hmm.
He'll be entering his age 34 season. Last 2 years have been, I'm not going to say abysmal because we know what abysmal is as Met fans, but it hasn't been pretty. He's got
Yeah.
3 years left on his deal through 2027. He's owed $21 million in 2025, 16 million in 2026, and 15 million in 2027. What's your take on Nolan Arenado? Because that's something that we could bring on Arenado and then also sign Pete Alonso. Whereas you can't necessarily say that we're going to go ahead and sign Bregman and Alonso, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, again, another gamer, Nolan Arenado. Unfortunately, I think on the offensive end, it's a case of, hey, I played in Colorado my whole life. And, I finally get out and I'm on a contender, quote unquote, and I don't show up because, the metrics aren't the same or the ballpark's different or the air is thicker, thinner, whatever the case may be. But I think one thing you can't take away from Nolan Arenado is that glove, and he's a platinum glove winner multiple times. Um, he's a guy I'd stick at third base no matter if he's hitting 220 or if he's hitting freaking 280. That's how good his glove is. I think he'd solidify that left side with Lindor. My only issue is again, the remaining contract is, are the Mets going to pay all of it? Are the Mets going to work out a deal and where the Cardinals pay a portion of it and the Mets give up X, Y, and Z? I don't know. Do I think it works out? I'm not sure, to be honest with you, on the offensive end, but I could tell you one thing on the defensive end, he's going to save some runs, and I think it's a perfect guy to have next to Lindor.
You know what's funny? I've been so adamantly against the Mets trading for Nolan Arenado, but just thinking about the idea of Alonso returning, then having a question mark at DH, recognizing that Vientos is also a DH, but can pick it at third a little bit. And then you see a veteran in Arenado. And it's funny, you look at some of his numbers, his walk percentage, strikeout percentage, they haven't really changed much. And this past season, even though he only hit 16 home runs and only drove in 71 runs, but he slashed 272, 325, and 394. Obviously, the slugging percentage you want to see up there. But you brought up the glove before. When we're talking WAR, he was worth negative zero point 0.4 offensive WAR last year. On the defensive side, he was worth 9.6 wins above replacement.
Mm.
So last year, he was worth 3.1 WAR in total. 2023, where he hit 26 home runs, drove in 93, he was worth 2.7 WAR. So it's varying, and it's a far cry from when he posted a 7.2 WAR in 2022, but it's only 2 years ago. So maybe you wonder, he was a young guy when he came up. So age is catching up to him a little bit earlier, 34. But at the same time, I don't know, man. It would probably reinvigorate him to get traded to a contender, maybe say to himself, these are probably my last 3 or 4 years. Let me get the most out of it. Let me try to win a chip. You might kind of hit the net. He might have a lot left in the tank.
Nah, yeah, of course. And the fact that, the Mets were on his list just says a lot about what the Mets are trying to do and what we've been doing,
Yeah.
and again, I think the winning and the potential to win something and the potential to bring home a championship brings out the best in people. So I know in Arenado, again, I wouldn't be upset. I know we spoke about it briefly last week or last episode, but listen, man, I mean, think about it. Bregman's 31. You sign him to a 7-year deal. It's essentially like taking Arenado his last 3 years. And they're not the same player, but
Yeah,
say
some
age
may ar
wise,
yeah, and some may argue. I mean, I brought it up before. There's an argument to be said that Bregman might be in his decline already. So would you
yeah,
rather bring
yeah,
on
exactly.
somebody that,
Hmm.
and and again, when you're looking at what players are getting on the open market, I don't think it's going to take a big package to get him whatsoever. I'm not really sure what the Cardinals are looking for, but getting an aging third baseman who still has game, but also at the same time didn't have a great 2024, and you're assuming that team will take on the contract, the Cardinals can't be asking for an arm and a leg here. So again, I didn't put this within my hypothetical lineups, but maybe I like the idea of flip flopping Vientos and Arenado between third base and DH, keep Arenado fresh, sign Alonso, because it's not like Arenado is getting a deal that's 30 million bucks or anything like that. And then next year, a guy like Starling Marte comes off the books. Arenado 16 million almost replaces it in a way.
Yeah. And we're not asking him to play 145 games anymore.
And he hasn't played less than 144 games since 2014.
There you go.
And we're minusing COVID, of course. So actually, I went into that little talk saying, I'm gonna make a case for the Mets not to get Arenado. I don't know if the price is right. I might be down, especially if Alonso is next, and that's where we're gonna turn. So Steve
Pete
Cohen,
Alonso.
yep.
Yep.
So Steve Cohen the other day at Juan Soto's presser said that they are cautiously optimistic. They believe an agreement will get done at some point. It appears like the Yankees are out on Alonso, so
Good.
suitors are kind of dwindling. We heard today that the Cubs are interested. The Cubs also traded Cody Bellinger, so they A, have a little bit more money to play with, and B, they also have a position for Alonso to play. That I could definitely see because the Cubs have
Yeah.
always had interest in him. But right now, I am of the I just think that you got to offer him a 5 year, $125 million contract. If you want to go up to 5 years, 130, 132, do it. But I'm not going beyond 5 years, and I'm not going beyond 25 to 27 annually. I'm just not doing it.
No, that's fair. I mean, I'd go six for 150 personally with an opt out, whether after the second year or third year. Um, but again, Pete Alonso, he just fits this team. We need a first baseman. He's the first. He's David Wright 2.0 in my eyes, you know. And again, thank God the Mets are finally retiring his number. But again, Pete Alonso's, you know, we used to call David Wright Mr. Met in my family household because he looked like him and he smiled like him and he represented the Mets well. Pete Alonso's another guy that represents the Mets well, and you think of the kids from Queens, you know. But it's just again like you think I don't know. I can't really see anybody manning it down, and I don't think it's works for both sides if he leaves. You know, like I don't think he'll do anything if he signs with the Cubs for 7 8 years at the price he wants, and I don't
Yeah,
think it's going to help the Mets out in terms of us and our future. So
absolutely. And another thing that I don't necessarily think that he has in his back pocket, I saw someone pose this question on X, and while I don't disagree with it, it would make no sense for Alonso to do so. He's coming off his worst year. He's entering his age 30 season. You could essentially, let's say you give him that 6 year, $150 million contract, $25 million annually. You could front load his contract for the first year and then give him an opt out after one. So it's almost like he's signing a 1 year deal, with crazy
yeah,
with more money than the back ends of his years, and then he can opt out. But next offseason, we can see right now, first base is not necessarily a coveted position unless you're a certain individual, right? And Alonso has his flaws and teams know about it. And then he won't be the top first baseman on the market next year because that's Vladdy
uh,
Guerrero Jr.
mhm.
So I don't, that wouldn't make sense. So I agree with you. I six for 150 is fine. Again, I'm not going beyond 5 or 6 years, but when you're looking at it, I agree with you. The pieces make too much sense not to come back into play. And you could be looking at a lineup of Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Alonso, Nimmo, Marte slash whatever lefty they bring in to DH, Tyrone Taylor, Jose Siri, Francisco Alvarez, and then whatever combination of second baseman you have in McNeil, Acuna, Mauricio. And that's obviously without any other trades or signings and whatnot. But that's something that they could conceivably do. And we know what Alonso's going to give you, whether he's hitting 220 or 260. He's going to hit 40 home runs. We just need more consistency. And especially if we're giving him that contract, that long term contract, and we're going to pass up Vladdy Guerrero Jr. next offseason, we're going to need him to cut down on chasing. Uh, we're going to need more hard contact. And we're going to need to see him produce late and clutching games as well as with runners in scoring position because that's the reason right now that he hasn't been signed already to a massive contract because he showed crazy flaws this past year.
No, definitely, and you know, again, Vlad Guerrero Jr. is he's the goods. Like, don't get me wrong. If you were to tell me, hey, the Mets have a choice between those two players, Pete Alonso and Vlad Guerrero Jr., I'd take my chances with either one of them. I would. My only thing is, it's just, do I really want to commit to a first baseman who's played his whole career in Toronto and again, who's you know, he's on the younger side. He's younger than Pete Alonso, I believe, and again, we know what he can become. But do I really want to commit to another 10-year deal? You know, 30 plus AAV. annually to a guy that plays first base who will eventually move to be a designated hitter, and I think Pete Alonso again, is a little bit on the older side, but even if he moves to DH, I'm not committing 10 years or 7, 8, 9 years to him, after his fourth or fifth year at first base. Again, Pete Alonso's on a down year, he'll hit 35 plus home runs. So I just think having a big bopper like that will help guys like Soto, Lindor, Vientos, Nimmo, produce more, to be honest with you, because you got a guy, two guys on, nobody out, and Pete Alonso's up. I'll take my chances on a 3-run dinger, or I'll take my chances
or a
on a
strikeout
ball. No, but that's the thing though. Like that's the type of power hitter you want in your lineup. And again, like Joey Gallo was hit or miss, and Joey Gallo hit fucking 200. I'm not saying Pete Alonso's Joey Gallo, but or
yeah,
vice
god forbid.
versa.
Oh man.
But it's like, bro, like that's the day and age of baseball we play now. It's like, it's either home run or bust, and Pete Alonso hits a lot of home runs, so I'll take my chances. And
Well,
he's proven in New York
he
personally.
is. He is. And not many players can come into New York and produce the way that he has. I think the so one we spoke about the potential of maybe a Bregman, potentially an Arenado, some of the guys on the trade market. Let's say that the Mets opt to move things around a little bit, right? The Mets go ahead and they sign Alex Bregman. Alonso signs elsewhere. You look towards, I know that we just stopped talking about Vladdy Guerrero Jr., but you look towards Vladdy Guerrero Jr. next year. You have Vientos DH for a year, and you go out and you call the Rays, who have Yandy Diaz. He's owed $8 million. He's a pure hitter, 275 to 295. He'll hit you 15 to 20 home runs, drive in 70 to 80. He can play the corners. He's got an option, a team option for the following year, 2026, at $8 million as well. Call the Rays for him or call the Guardians and get Mr. Josh Naylor, who is estimated to get around $14 million in arbitration, his last arbitration year as well. And again, I want Pete Alonso back, but I put together a lineup of them, let's say, acquiring Josh Naylor, and it looks so good, dude. It's lengthy, it's nice, it's pretty. It would be Lindor, Soto. Again, this is with Bregman. Lindor, Soto, Alex Bregman, Josh Naylor, Mark Vientos, Brandon Nimmo, Taylor, Siri, Francisco Alvarez, and then your second base bunch. What would you say to a stopgap over at first base if they don't re-sign Pete Alonso?
Yeah, no, it's smart. I mean, again, especially I would take Josh Naylor personally, just because
Same.
um like that City Field right field, he's pull happy. I think he'd hit a lot of home runs here. He's good defensively as well, I think, and you did that motion with your hands before. He definitely brings the energy and has been in big time games in the postseason. So I take a Josh Naylor. I mean, I like Yandy Diaz too, man. I'm pretty. Can he play third too? I think
Yeah.
you could play both corners,
Yep.
and then you could slide him into DH when he needs to break.
Yeah, he's
But
a hitter.
yeah, and he's a pure hitter. Yeah, Yandy Diaz is a pure hitter. He'll get you 10 to 15 home runs, but he'll hit for average, and that slash line will look really good.
He's also one of those guys that maybe will hit 13 home runs but drive in like 75 runs.
No, yeah, yeah. I remember one year he had like 80 RBIs, but like 11 home runs or something like that. But
Yeah.
here's a thought process, and let me tell you this, because I just kind of been like, going the cheap route. Not even the
Mhm.
cheap route, but again, like the stopgap route, as you say.
We've gotten too used to it.
I mean, listen, man, like I like the idea of, especially if you sign Bregman, I like the idea of giving Vientos a year at first base. And honestly, re-sign Jesse Winker, platoon him and Marte at DH. You move Jeff McNeil to right field, and then your platoon of Ronnie Mauricio and Luis Angel Acuna at second base. I think that'd be legit.
So then what? Does Soto go back to Soto goes to left field?
No,
And
not McNeil as the permanent right fielder, but I'm saying like McNeil as that fourth outfielder, you know, and
gotcha.
and along with Winker, Marte, McNeil, Soto, Taylor, Siri, Nimmo, you got a legit outfield. Um, But again, and then again, like McNeil can go back to being that platoon guy, playing third, playing second, playing left, playing right, subbing in defensively and late in games, And I don't know. I just like that idea, man. Like, and giving Vientos a year at first, that's your stopgap, so you don't have to trade anybody if you want to think young and stay young.
Yeah.
But
I think my idea just was more so
no,
if
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
if you bring in
Like
Bregman.
major league ready slash win now.
Yeah, and dude, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Even the first lineup that I said that included Alonso and then, a re-sign of a Winker. I don't even think that lineup is deep enough because I still have questions. And
Yeah,
that I guess
no, yeah,
that's I guess that's why when I just mentioned this past lineup, if you were to trade for a Naylor drove in 108 runs last year, hit 31 home runs. You insert him in the four hole, have Vientos behind him, Bregman, Soto, and Lindor in front of Naylor.
no, legit, yeah.
Then all of a sudden, then you're 1 through 6 deep. If Alvarez turns into the hitter we know he is, then you're 1 through 8 deep. Like I just or 1 through 7 deep. I think that as much as I want Pete Alonso back, and I'm going to make this clear to all those that are listening, Ian Bosniak wants Pete Alonso back. I think that the Mets can be creative if they don't bring him back. At first, I was really opposed to signing Bregman. I was really opposed to trading for Nolan Arenado. But I think with Bregman, if you can get him for less years, I'm down for it because he's more contact oriented. I think that would work well within the lineup. And then from there, my thing is just you would have a lineup that consists of Lindor, Soto, Bregman, Vientos, Nimmo, and then the DH Taylor. So I think that one more bat would be needed.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just that's just my one thing, and that's why I like that Josh Naylor uh, potential
Yandy
acquisition.
Diaz, yeah,
Yeah, but again, I am because even with Yandy Diaz, then you got Yandy Diaz batting sixth in that lineup, and you're still looking good.
100%.
So again, Rob and I were both on the Pete Alonso train, and we both think he's coming home. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to start thinking about other possibilities. All right, Rob. So let's take this conversation from the offense to the pitching. We're still a few pitchers short. The Mets introduced Clay Holmes today. He loves the environment. He sees the great potential that Juan Soto saw in the Mets, yada, 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 this, that, and the third. He's excited to transition from the bullpen to the rotation. But the rotation still needs help. And we've heard a couple rumblings recently, most notably the Mets involved in conversations with the Seattle Mariners regarding Luis Castillo. And Rob, when I tell you I want Luis Castillo like a hole in the head, I mean it when I say it. The Mets should go out and try to make a deal work with the Seattle Mariners to bring Luis Castillo in.
No, 100%. And I think the contract would help us out or would fare well for us in terms of salary cap, this, that, and the third. So only making what, 21 million, whatever it is, 20 around that range.
Like 22, 23.
Yeah, but like again, Kikuchi got 21 million annually, AAV.
Exactly.
So like again, a guy like Luis Castillo, who's a top 25 pitcher in the league, top 20 pitcher, maybe even top 10. I'll make that trade in a heartbeat. And we got a lot of traction on Twitter in terms of like a mock trade. I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I think Seattle would listen if you guys were running the Mets. But a guy like Castillo would benefit the Mets in the long run and obviously in the win now mode. He'd be our number one in my opinion. So I'd love it. I'd do it in a heartbeat, and especially if it's the right deal for both parties.
Yeah. Listen, we'll make the pitching side quick here. Okay. 2025 through 2027, he's owed $24.1 million. Rob, I don't know when you said it. I think it was when we had Ronald Hernandez on, but you mentioned the fact that Minaya could be getting a shit ton of money. It's looking like he is going to get a shit ton of money in that 25 to 28 million dollar per
Yeah, and
year
Matt
range.
called me an idiot or
Yeah.
whatever it was. He was like, "Yo, you're bugging."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right." And that's
Yeah.
why I think it's been so quiet,
Yeah.
because he's just weighing out options. He's still.
Yeah. And the thing is that I saw what reporter was it with it? Joel Sherman, Andy Martino. I don't know, but like the Mets were thinking they are, and again, you know my stance. I'm very against long-term contracts for pitchers, right? But they were talking about something like a three, maybe a 4-year deal, but a much higher AAV. Like I saw something like 3 years, $80 million, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. As much as I love Sean Manaea, as much as I want him back, dude, you can go ahead. Like again, what do the Mariners want? They want infielders. They want major league ready infielders. What do we have?
Brett
Major
Baty,
league.
Acuna,
Yeah,
McNeil.
we have major league ready
Uh,
infielders. This guy you brought up Kikuchi before, is he worth $21 million? No. So is Luis Castillo worth $24 million? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You bring him in. Listen, you can say that his past year was mid, but at the same time, he's been chucking the ball at such a consistent rate for the last several years. This past year, made 30 starts, 11 and 12 with a 3.64 ERA, struck out 175 in 175 innings. 2023, 33 starts, 14 and 9 with a 3.34 ERA, 219 strikeouts in 197 innings. And in 2022, made 25 starts, had a 2.99 ERA. I just think that if you were to plug in Castillo ahead of Senga and go Castillo, Senga, Peterson, Montes, Holmes, and then Blackburn or McGill, we're
that's
talking.
tough. That's
We're
tough.
talking.
Yeah.
Now, I still think there are question marks because,
I still think the Mets are gonna add after if say they were to trade for Luis Castillo. Maybe like a Bueller or something, or like a
yeah,
one more guy, or like a Canning, Griffin Canning, whatever.
yeah, yeah. So the Mets, yeah, we'll touch upon, I mean, we'll just say that quickly. Yeah, the Mets are interested in Griffin Canning. He was the piece that was sent over from the Angels to the Braves in exchange for Jorge Soler, the salary dump, and then the Braves dumped him. Canning was a first round draft pick, hasn't really panned out at the big league level, but he's another guy that would be a complete reclamation project. And again, I trust the Mets in changing the pitchers' repertoires and their mechanics and really tweaking them to the point where they're extremely effective. But at the same time, I'm gonna be honest. Griffin Canning better be your number 8 or number 9.
Yeah, yeah,
You
no,
know,
100%.
so that's why like I don't want to see any more. Montes is enough because at the end of the day, you have to hope that Frankie Montes does what Luis Severino or Sean Manaea did last year. Clay Holmes is only going to be able to throw, what would you say, like 3, 4, maybe 5 innings from the get go, right? He's not going to be really stretched out as much as you would want. Kodai Senga threw a whopping 3 and 2/3 of an inning last year, playoffs included, right? So you have question marks.
Yeah,
And that's why I think bringing in a stalwart like a Luis Castillo would be of the utmost importance because you need somebody that you know is going to give you 28 plus starts and is going to be effective.
yeah,
And
and that's here brings my question, and again, I have, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but again, like as a fan, like I don't question the Mets like not considering a six-man rotation because honestly, that's when Senga's been so successful. We
plus
have
with
the depth,
Holmes,
we have the depth pieces for it. Expect, and again, if you're gonna tell me like Clay Holmes is a starter, right? He's gonna start for the Mets, right? And he gives me like 135 innings to 150 max. Sign me the fuck up, to be honest. Because again, especially if you go six man and you're winning, and Senga's healthy and Holmes is healthy, then you get to October or playoffs, then you move Holmes to the bullpen or you move a guy, whoever in the bullpen, Montez, Peterson, Senga. They're all capable of doing it. It's the longevity and the marathon we call the 162 game season in baseball that we have to survive, And again, like I think that's why the Mets were so successful in 22. They got a guy like Chris Bassett who ate up so many innings. They got a guy like Taijuan Walker who figured it out and ate up so many innings. Max Scherzer and Degrom were the cherry. They were the 1A and A of the rotation, but it's the guys behind them that really like matter. Like and that really are important to a pitching staff.
I think a 6-man rotation is what the Mets need to do
Hmm.
from the jump. And I haven't really looked too much into their schedule for the beginning of the season. Hopefully, there are some off days that allocate for extra days rest, and so that the Mets can maneuver their starters and whatnot. But again, it really appears like the Mets are going to be spending big on the offense, and they're going to go short term, high upside when it comes to the pitching. Which again, I agree. You just have to you just have to do your due diligence, and you have to hope that the pitching lab works out. And by the way, that mock trade that I brought up the other day, and a lot of people said that the Mariners wanted major league, and these are comments that we received, but a lot of people were saying, "Oh, the Mariners want major league ready infielders, this, that, and the third." But I think that this package would be pretty good. Brett Beatty. Prospects Jesus Baez, who's an infielder, as well as outfielder Nick Morabito, who people were saying that he's mid. He's not mid. Morabito's great. And then pitcher Christopher Gomez, who's down in Port St. Lucie. Plus, the Mets would assume the remainder of Luis Castillo's contract, which again, he's owed $24.15 million through 2027. So the Mets would be assuming north of $70 million as well. I think that would be a fair contract. Something
Mhm.
that off the record, Matt and I were talking about the other day was Rob, like, would if the Mariners said, "Hey, we don't want Brett Beatty, we want Luis Angel Acuna," would you pull trig?
I don't know. That's tough because I liked what I saw out of Acuna in 14 games and the playoffs or whatever. But
And he's not doing too shabby in the Venezuelan league.
yeah, I saw his numbers in the Venezuelan league. I really liked the idea of having Acuna and Lindor up the middle for years to come. But again, we got a lot of infielders, like you said. I like Mauricio a lot. I like Jet Williams. I like the idea of, you know, bringing
Yeah,
back Iglesias. I like the idea of moving McNeil around the infield, but
sorry,
sometimes when you want, you gotta give. So
exactly. Yeah, sorry, dude. The Mets signed Jared Young today, so I don't think Jose Iglesias is coming back. No, 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 no. You know
oh
what?
my God.
Yeah,
I gotta get a shirt.
yeah, I do too. But listen, whether this contract offer, this mock contract, or this mock trade that we posed was weak or not, I think it shows the context of what it's going to take to get him. And I'm going to be completely honest. I think that we have grown accustomed to waiting for this year. 2024 was supposed to be a transition season. 2023, we were supposed to win the whole damn thing after signing Verlander and coming up short the year before, winning 100 plus games. And I think that we've built up to this point, not only on field, but in the minors as well, where we have to stop fantasizing over what could be with some of these prospects.
Yeah,
I would be open to trading Jet Williams in the right deal.
me too.
And I never thought that I would say that. But right now, like, yo, dog, you just spent $765 million dollars on top three bat in baseball. You have the runner-up MVP National League last year leading off your order. You got a blooming third baseman in Mark Vienti. Like, you got a squad. You got a squad. All right. So it kind of comes down to how the pitchers are going to hold up. And as you said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And how many times have we seen the pitchers just gas out towards the end? And that's why if the Mets were to, let's say, trade for Luis Castillo and then sign a Walker Bueller, then yeah, Walker Bueller is another question mark. But then you would have a six-man rotation. Holmes would be your six man, but then you would have the likes of Blackburn and Tyler McGill and anybody else. They would be your depth starters when you need. And if the Mets aren't going long term for pitching, that's the best way to go about it,
Yeah,
in my opinion. And uh, that's kind of that. Last thing here, okay. We mentioned Sean Manaea before. Given that most likely the next time that we chat, we may know more about him. what's the highest average annual value you're willing to go with Sean Manaea?
That's a tough question. I'd say 25 personally.
Would you give him a 5 year, $100 million contract?
No, 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 no.
Hey, bro, I think somebody's gonna do
I know, and that's the thing that Matt doesn't understand. Well, excuse me. I
it.
shouldn't say he doesn't understand, but like when I
Matt, are
said
you
that number,
listening?
when I said that number, I didn't say that's what the Mets are going to give him. I said that's what someone's going to give him because you want something, you're going to get it. There's always that one team that overpays, and every offseason. And I think honestly that one team is going to overpay. And a guy like Sean Manaea who figured it out, who reinvented himself throughout the year, who stayed healthy, who put himself on the map, he's going to get overpaid. Look, so
Listen, man. As soon as I saw Kikuchi get $21 million,
that's what I'm
I
saying,
said
bro.
anything's possible.
That's what I'm saying. And
I hate
Sevy got
bring
what, 3 for 67? Like that's fire
three,
for Sevy. Like
three.
Sevy's better than Kikuchi
Yeah, yeah. You know what? So nothing surprises me. I feel like Kikuchi has been like the joke of the
of the
podcast
couple
for the
Mets
last
off
couple weeks.
season.
But it's the truth. It's like that's what set the precedence for pitching,
Yeah,
and that's what the Mets need. Um, Most likely, guys, we're going to be back in a couple days, potentially the beginning of next week, right before the holidays. Some personal news right after Christmas. I am getting married.
yes, sir.
Mr. Venegas is one of my groomsmen, so we'll throw some content. I don't know, maybe we'll get like a couple Mets flag if
I'll go
my
live. I'll go live.
yeah, we'll go live, and then maybe we'll get a couple Mets flag to bring to the reception. We'll take a
That'd be
photo with
funny.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not sure my fiance will be cool with it, but that's all right. She's picked out everything else.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Including the
So
cat.
yeah,
Anyways.
including nah, Enzo's great. Yeah, we got a kitten too. All right, Rob, you got anything else?
No, yeah, man. I mean, I know we're gonna hop on in a couple days for the final episode of 2024, but I just want to say, I love you, bro. You're getting married soon. It's been a hell of a journey.
Getting sentimental, baby.
It's been a great ride. You're my brother. I love you. And I couldn't have asked for, not only a better friend, like one of my best friends, but a very good brother. So I appreciate you, love you, and let's go Mets. And nothing
Thanks,
but
man.
love and happiness for you and Evie. So,
I appreciate it.
and I'll
Yes.
say
Now,
it again
yeah,
before the actual wedding. So,
yeah. See, guys, we're not just Mets. We're love. Okay. Remember to give us a follow. And by the way, Rob, I love you too. My brother,
appreciate you, bro.
my
Thank you.
best friend, co-host,
Yep.
right there through it all. But
Yes, sir.
again, remember to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We're at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Download the SeatGeek app. Punch in code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. And last but not least, head over to Smack and Sunflower Seeds. Got a ton of new flavors. Punch in code Ian05405 to get 10% off of any purchase. And for Robert Venegas, I'm Ian Bosniak. Episode 32 of The Hot Stove is in the books. We'll see you in a couple days, guys. Good night, everybody. Let's go, Mets.